In the Gospel of John, Jesus speaks the famous 3 words describing who he is. I am the way and the truth and the life. The way, the truth, the life. He's saying to his disciples shortly before his death that he's going to prepare a place for them in his Father's house. And he says that they know the way to the place where he is going. And Thomas reacts by saying, we don't know the way. We don't even know the place. What's the way? And Jesus answers, I am the way. Some words that are used in the New Testament are really heavy. And I don't mean that they weigh a lot. I mean that they are theologically heavy. Some words have been used a lot in the Bible before the New Testament, and when you've read the stuff from before, then you get the multi-layered meaning of some expressions that are being used. Earlier in the Gospel of John, for example, Jesus calls himself ego eimi. That's Greek, and it corresponds with the name of God from the Old Testament, I am. So Jesus uses 2 really casual words, I am, and by using them, he actually makes a point about his divinity. I am the I am, meaning God. No wonder that the scribes who knew the Old Testament got upset. He was using the name of God on himself. The way is an expression that the Old Testament uses pretty often. In Deuteronomy, it talks about a path of the Lord that will protect you and give success. The Psalms often speak of the way of the Lord, as in a lifestyle, a life according to the will of God. That is the way, the right way, the way of the Lord. The book of Isaiah uses these way or highway images a lot as well. Chapter 35. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray. Or chapter 40. In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. The highway, or the way in Isaiah, it seems to have some kind of a messianic or eschatological meaning to it. And I stopped to think about it as I was studying Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah 11 is a wonderful, wonderful text. It's like this massive prophecy about the shoot of Jesse that will bring perfect peace and happiness with it. Beautiful, messianic, eschatological promise. It talks about how, then, on that day, the lion and the leopard will lie down together with cows and sheep in perfect harmony. It's a beautiful promise of a world of perfect peace it's like utopia for us. And in a typical Old Testament prophecy way, this eschatological promise is also mixed with a promise for the contemporary hearers for their situation. Their threat was the exile, the captivity in Babylon. That was their hopeless situation that they were in. They couldn't go home. They were captives in the land of the enemy. And so this text, it promises perfect peace someday in the future, and it promises redemption. It talks about redeeming the remnant, those who are left, who are left from the people of God, even though they have been scattered all over the different nations. And in verse 11, it promises redemption for that remnant, and it lists 8 different locations from where the people of God will be redeemed. They aren't all necessarily locations where the Israelites at that time actually were, because the point of these exact locations is a little different. Some of the locations are in the west, some in the east, some in the north, and some in the south. So you get the idea? The poetical prophecy doesn't necessarily mean those exact locations, but it draws a picture of all 4 corners of their world, meaning everywhere, the whole world. That's where the people of God will be redeemed from. But then in verse 16, right at the end, it specifically mentions Assyria. And that was significant for the exiles right at that time, because that's where Babylon was. That was the area of their captivity. So you get the idea. The prophecy promises a redemption, a worldwide redemption. And also, it was applicable for the exiles that were in the specific region of Assyria, waiting and hoping for God to save them. And so verse 16 promises. So there shall be a highway from Assyria for the remnant that is left of his people, as there was for Israel when they came up from the land of Egypt. A way, a highway out of captivity, out of Assyria, a highway into redemption. And that way, that highway, that will lead eventually to perfect peace. So you see how heavy, how theologically heavy is the word that Jesus chooses to use in John chapter 14. I am the way. Many thoughts come to the people's mind when they hear the words of Jesus. I am the way. Here's one more meaning to that word, like it has been used in Isaiah chapter 11. Jesus, the highway to redemption. Jesus, the highway that leads to perfect peace, that leads to that place where the lion and the leopard will lie down together with cows and sheep in perfect harmony. The highway to redemption from under all oppression, all captivity, all enemies. Jesus is the way, the highway to redemption.